All right, it's Jay Mac. I am back. This is Street to Strategy. This is episode number 3. My podcast is highlighting law enforcement education. Today, I have my second guest. Today's guest is someone whose life embodies service, resilience, and integrity. Born and raised in Visalia, California, Patrick Lozano is the president and CEO of Echelon Security Group, Inc., one of the largest security companies in Central Valley. Patrick began his law enforcement career at just 19 years old, becoming the first explorer ever hired full-time by Sheriff Bob Wiley, and by 21, he was the youngest officer in Tulare PD's history. Over more than 2 decades, he served in multiple agencies as a detective, motor officer, school resource officer, and DARE officer. His career includes moments of extraordinary bravery, earning Porterville's Medal of Distinguished Service for saving a woman from a machete attack, and later surviving what he calls the fight of his life when he has subdued a PCP-influenced assailant who had gained control of his firearm while attempting to kill a teenage girl. Beyond policing, Patrick built a remarkable business career. He grew a Visalia collection agency by 370% in 4 years. Later founded Accelerated Recyclables Group and became the only CEO in Visalia Chamber history to lead multiple companies to Business of the Year honors. Today, he and his wife Tiffany head Echelon Security Group, recognized with the Triple B's Ethics in Business Award and Visalia's Medium Business of the Year. But what truly defines Patrick is his integrity. He testified against corrupt police officers and supervisors, even at great personal costs, because he believes, as he puts it, doing the right thing is always the right thing to do. Alongside his business and law enforcement work, he has been a school board member, coach, chaplain, and advocate for the unhoused and the food insecure and the marginalized. It is an honor to welcome to the show Patrick Lozano.
Matt, my brother.
Thank you, man. Welcome to the show.
My pleasure. It's an honor to be with you. I've caught your first couple episodes. Love the episode with Gibby, and I loved your introductory episode. And hey, man, we've been brothers for a long time.
100%.
My heart would be broke if I wasn't on the early entry list for your podcast.
Oh, dude. Well, I remember going. I want to bring on people that are real, and I think that. You had a great career. I think your security company, you are clearly head and shoulders above I'm used to seeing security guards with their pants down where you can see their butt crack, wearing a shirt that looked like it come out of the bottom of a hamper,
right?
And smelling like, culo and weed.
Right.
And you come along, you bring in this security company, your cars look better than Visalia PD, your uniforms are outstanding. And it's just refreshing to see a company that takes security serious and is trying to providing the best service possible. If I had a business and I needed security, and I'm not just saying this because we're friends, you would be the only people I would call.
Well, brother, I appreciate that. And here's the thing. Okay, so our careers were just about as long as 24 years. I started a few years before you.
Yeah.
So I lived with a different era of police officers. I'm sure we'll get into all of that. But, I was always frustrated dealing with security. You'd get a call pop up on your MDT and it's telling you there's security on site, right? So security officers are literally paid to observe and report.
Correct.
But when you roll up on the scene and you contact a security officer to get a statement, and they're staring back at you like they have absolutely no idea why you're there. It just used to frustrate the heck out of me. So after I'd sold my last company that was in a different industry, I was in the receivables industry. My wife looked at me, she said, "Well, I know you don't want to retire. What do you want to do?" And I said, I was thinking security. And she goes,
"Is receivables, is that repo?"
Receivables. So with Accelerated Receivables Group, we specialized working with banks and credit unions on helping those particular institutions get their portfolios up to speed.
Got it.
So if someone had fallen behind, they will outsource the call center work to people that will do nothing but make calls on automated dialers to make contact with the parties and try to get them back onto payment plans, if you will. So we're working on those delinquent receivables. And when we sold that, we did really well with it. And Tiffany said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I was thinking security." And she goes, yeah, but everything you've ever told me is you don't like security companies. And I said, I don't. I said, but you can't change the industry if you're not in the middle of it.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you something, man. I remember seeing your very first car, dude. And I was impressed, I was like, I mean, damn, I mean, I remember you jumped out of the car and, I mean, you look like, you honestly do for security, you look like a cop.
Well, we want to take care of business.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you this, man. It's like, I just looking at you guys, looking at your cars, I was like, I mean, damn, bro, I was impressed because, again, I mean, you're right. I mean, every time we ever got a call with a security guard, you're like, oh my gosh, dude. I mean, most security guards look like they could mess up a cup of coffee, bro. Right. And, and then you come along and, man, it's awesome, man.
Well, I appreciate that. We understand that we're civilians. We know what lane we're in. We also understand that law enforcement's so impacted that it's ridiculous. And so we have the luxury of being paid by our clients because we run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on patrol, multiple officers. So when a client calls because they have a transient issue on problem on site or they've got a theft problem going on in progress, we can actually roll because we have the luxury of only responding to our client sites where the police have all these calls stacking up. But sometimes just showing up is a good enough deterrence. But I appreciate that. But I wanted to touch on something real quick before we start. Because you and I have been friends a long time, and the question always comes up with people like us. We do a couple decades in service to others in law enforcement. And people always ask the question why, and I want to tell you a story. I was working as a DARE officer in Porterville, a town just south of here, where I did a majority of my career.
I saved my wife from Porterville. She's from there, so
you're a good man.
She'll kill me tonight for saying that.
She'll understand. And I really enjoyed my time in Porterville because I was a DRE. Drug recognition expert. And I rolled from that into being a DARE officer, which was kind of interesting because now I know both aspects of the narcotics and what it does to the user, but then you start seeing what it does to the family. And so you want to be interventional, right? You want to be at the front end of that not occurring. But I've been a DARE officer for a while. And I think a lot of times people look at that officers that get assigned to schools and they look at them saying, I wonder what he did to piss off the chief.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't see people standing in line for that. I actually started the DARE program in Porterville. I went to the school put on by Daryl Gates's first teaching cadre for LAPD. And
I also heard that DARE school, I heard that was one of the hardest schools to pass.
It was incredibly difficult. It really was. And I went there while I was with Tulare PD. I enjoyed my time with Tulare PD, but I come back and the chief tells me, I'm glad you got the training. He also sent me with another officer, and she went on to retire as a lieutenant 2 years ago. We both went, and he came back. He says, look, but we're not going to be implementing the program here. He said, but I had to get the city council off my back. So that's why I sent you guys to training. Now, he didn't tell us that before we went to school. Anyway, so I'm in this capacity. I'm doing K-12. So we had 16 schools in Porterville, kindergarten through 12th grade. And I was on campus one day at one of our poorest schools. And a 12-year-old fifth grader walked up to me during recess because I never went in the teacher's lounge at recess. I wanted to be out where the kids were hanging out. And this little girl came up to me and she said, Officer Lozano, she said, I love you. Nice. I said, well, that's very sweet. Thank you, sweetheart. I love you too. And she said, and I love my sister. And I said, you love your sister? And she said, yeah. And she started tearing up. And I said, sweetheart, what's the matter? She goes, my sister turned 10 this weekend. I said, oh, wonderful. That's great. And she goes, no, you don't understand.
I see where this is going.
And as soon as she said that, you don't understand, I said, you know what, sweetheart?
Let's go talk
let's
in
go,
here.
Let's go talk in the office. And, we went to the school office. I found the counselor and I said, sweetheart, tell me what's going on. And what she explained to me is exactly what you think she explained to me.
Oh, yeah.
That the day that she had turned 10, her dad brought her into the bedroom and initiated her on her 10th birthday.
Yeah.
While mom was in the bedroom rubbing her hair, telling her how much she loved her and how good girl she was.
Yeah. You know what, dude? Molestation, and you know this, man, there's something about sexual assault that I've seen. It just devastates lives.
Yes.
And I, every time we have to work one of those, I know you know this.
Yeah.
Those are hard on us, bro.
Oh my God. They tear you up.
Yeah.
They tear you up.
And
she went on to tell me, right? She went on to tell me right after we blew out the birthday cake, my dad took my sister by the hand and brought her into the bedroom.
Oh, Jesus.
And, right at this point, Jay, my blood really is starting to boil.
Oh, yeah.
And when she had indicated to me that when she got initiated at 10, that was the word she used. That's a groomed word if I've ever heard
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So she tells me that mom is involved by laying in the bed next to her and rubbing her head and telling her everything's okay.
I can't even imagine, dude.
She said, well, mom goes into the room with him, so I knew what was going on.
Wow.
And she said, and I can't stay silent. I love my sister. And since I love you and I trust you, I needed to tell you about that. Jay, when people ask me why I continued to forge on in this career path, when none of us come out without scars.
100%.
We all have stories, brother, but we all have scars, and some of them super deep. Some of them run super deep, and that one young lady. And here's what's horrible, and you know this about law enforcement. I have no idea whatever happened to her life.
Yeah,
I have no idea whatever happened to her sister's life. I do know this. I got enough information in my interviews that after school that day, I showed up at the house. Child was not with me. I already had her in CPS care. The 10-year-old took her out of fourth grade, and she was already in CPS care. There was just one child remaining in the house, 2 years old. And when I knocked on the door, the man comes to the door and goes, Officer Lozano, I met you at back to school night. And I said, turn around and put your hands behind your back.
Yeah.
And I clicked him, and you know what I want to do? You know that vision of when Homer Simpson strangles Bart?
Yeah.
Till his head pops off.
Yeah.
But you can't do that, right?
You can't
do it because I'm the guy now going to jail if I do that, right?
Well, also too, you can't compromise the case.
Can't compromise the case. This little girl came to me. I have this obligation to make sure that I do this by the book. And then the mom comes out the door and says, Officer Lozano, what are you doing here? And I'm going to tell you,
her too, dude.
it was a lot. Well, it was a lot harder to be civil to her, but I flipped her around and I threw my second pair of cuffs on her.
Yeah.
And I'll keep this story short, but when we adjudicated the case, he got 15 years, she got 21.
Love it.
Because we were able to not only add every single count of child molestation, but we also added that she was a groomer, co-conspirator, and really primarily
acting in concert with one another to make this stuff happen.
In concert, but she groomed those kids to be ready for that day. Dude, this is why we do the job. There are genuine people that really need quality police officers who give a shit.
100%.
And can deal with this. We were talking about this before going live. We're expected to deal with shit and not walk away smelling like shit.
Yeah, dude. When you talk about scars and I've often explained to people, they're not scars, dude. They're chains, bro.
Right.
They are chains, man.
Every one of them.
And and I mean, dude, I got similar stories, but man, I will tell you this. Bad folks, a lot of suspects used to tell me this. Why do you take this so personal, officer? And so I used to tell them, I'm the victim's avenging angel.
That's exactly
you know what I mean?
I'm the voice.
Yeah, and man,
I'm that guy.
Yes,
and you're going to have to deal with me.
Well, I should say this, man. I was born to do this. I think you were too.
Yep.
I was born to protect people. I was born to be in service of others. And it's something, man, I took it serious, bro.
100%.
And man, because again, we are seeing things and doing things that John Q. Citizen never gets to see. But
no, and here's the thing. You didn't do it to get rich.
100%.
I did not do it to get rich. I knew. Okay, so when the sheriff hired me, when I started my career, I was at the sheriff's department. When the sheriff hired me, I had put aside the Air Force because I already had my date to go off. I was going to be an officer in the Air Force, and I'd been in ROTC, but he offered me a job I couldn't refuse. And I thought, well, I'll just set it off, but I'm going to do law enforcement as my stint of service. I had always planned on being a successful businessman because I was always that person that was always working on what needs to be done, what needs to be changed. How can I do this? Even as a youngster, right? And so I knew I was going to be big in business. But then, Jay, one day when I was 12 years old, my dad came home and an argument broke out between my mom and my dad. And it started in the house and it went out the front door. And I was the oldest of 4 kids. And watched my dad try to kill my mom in the front yard.
Jesus.
And I had no aspirations before any of this to get in law enforcement. You know, when you're growing up, you always think you know what you want to do. Law enforcement wasn't on my radar, but I'm watching him boot stomp her in the front yard. And
what was this, alcoholism or just
no,
mental
it
health?
was he had impregnated somebody else.
Oh, okay.
And my mom had no clue. And he came home and comes in the house and lays it on her that he had impregnated their counselor of all people.
Wow.
And
no, Pat, I'm 54. How old are you, brother?
I'm 60.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So he had impregnated the counselor. They'd been in marriage counseling and that he was leaving. And my mom was shocked. Think about it. I mean, so she's stunned. Not only is he packing all of his stuff, but she's waiting out in the car.
Jesus.
While he's coming. And so my mom's falling out the door. My mom, the Irish immigrant, feisty little 4'10" Irish immigrant. She's screaming at him the whole way. And my dad was a Golden Glove boxer in the Navy, Jay. He turned around and gave her one hit, puts her down on the ground, and then just starts boot stomping her.
Wow, I would tell you that stuff right there are things that, especially because you were such a young kid.
Yeah.
It puts this thing into you where when you get older, you want to protect.
100%.
And you know,
I ran out there. I jumped on her motionless body, and I screamed at him to please stop. And he left. But before he left, he broke both occipital lobes of her eyes. He'd broke 8 ribs. He had broke both sides of her jaw. She had to have it wired shut.
Jesus.
Injuries that took years
for
her to overcome. And I remember the police coming out, Jay. And
where'd you grow up at?
Right here in the city of Visalia.
Okay.
And I remember the police coming out, and this was before Ronald Reagan's the Ronald Reagan Domestic Violence Act that he signed in 1984, where if a police officer had a suspicion to believe that domestic violence had occurred, he may arrest the offender.
Because back then, if the victim didn't want to press charges, that was it.
My mom couldn't talk, Jay. She's laying on the ground with a broken jaw and was swollen, and she could not tell them in the affirmative that she wanted him arrested, and he'd already driven off.
Jesus.
So some lazy cops let that whole incident go. No one ever followed up on it. My mom couldn't speak. It wasn't that my mom didn't tell them to arrest. She could not give a statement because of how bad she was injured.
Wow.
And I thought, you know what? I don't ever want to see this happen to another woman again.
Yeah, man. Good for you. And you know what, bro?
And we're Irish, Jay.
We are, man.
Come on, it's a rite of passage if you're Irish.
It is.
Look here, laddie. You're either become an Irish cop or an Irish firefighter, don't you know?
Yeah.
Either that or you just become an Irish drunk, and then what good are you to anybody?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I would tell you this. Well, I got a ton of questions.
I bet you do. But did you remember that story?
I did not.
You know, brother, you and I, when we talk, we can just talk about some of the most. I told you earlier. At the beginning is going to be a little different because I want to put some context.
100%
context to the job, because when some people enter law enforcement for a different motivation than I did. Yeah. I entered under the motivation of I'm not going to let men do this to women. And
well, and I would tell you this, man. You and your brother both, the Lozanos.
Yeah. Well, there's 3 of us came into law enforcement, both brothers.
Well, and I would tell you this. I knew you and I knew Phil, and I remember Lancaster back in the day. He used to tell me he thought Phil was going to be like chief probation officer one day, and so. I've always had a lot of respect for you and Phil, and number one, I judge people how they treat me. Right. And, you guys were always awesome, but let's dive in. All right. You became the youngest officer in Tulare PD's history at 21. Yeah. How did you handle the responsibility and the pressure that came with that role?
It was really crazy because I had been working with the sheriff's office. The sheriff had given me a really nice job at the age of 19. I was doing buy busts. I had 2 detectives that would work with me on different days. One was named Mike and the other guy was named Jake. And I love these guys. And we would drive around the county to the troubled spots that all the beat officers were saying, this is where you can go and you can buy alcohol. This is where you can go buy smokes without cigarette tax on them. This is where you can go buy hand-to-hand dope, right? And the sheriff, he'd seen me around the station house a ton, because if I wasn't at Visalia PD riding with one of the Logan brothers or hanging out, with Jay or Earl Grimes or one of the other boys that I just loved hanging out with, then I was hanging out at the sheriff's substation, and that's where I'd been an explorer. And but the thing was, back at the sheriff's department back in the day, is your career path was, once you went through the academy, you were going to go to the jail.
Oh, dude, I don't you know it? And I did a year at the jail, dude.
Right. And then once you get out of the jail and you hit patrol, if you promote to sergeant, where do you go? back to the jail.
Yeah.
So then you do 3 or 4 years in the jail as a sergeant, you get released, you're out, you either go back to detectives or you go to patrol, but now you make lieutenant. Where do you go?
Back to the jail.
And I really sincerely, from that motivational time of 12, I wanted to make a difference in the lives of families. And I wasn't going to be doing that in lockup. So I applied at Tulare PD. I actually applied at Visalia PD at the age of 19 and a half. Out of 271 applicants, I came out number 1. And Roy Springmeyer and Ray Forsyth called me in for my final interview.
Probably just too young at the time, I would think.
Yeah. And they said to me, Patrick, this is an academy fill position where you must be able to take patrol when you come out of the academy and you're just too young. But then Ray Forsyth said, he was the chief at the time and Springmeyer was the city manager. He said to me, son, I've known you for far too long. He said, let me give you some advice. We've got good departments all around the city of Visalia. He said, you've grown up here. Why don't you go work, go work for Roger Hill in Tulare or go work for Woody over in Porterville and always come home to Visalia at night. He said, you're even going to find when you do that you're still going to be having a lot of run-ins with acquaintances.
Bro, you ain't a kidding, dude.
And, I took that advice and I got hired in Tulare and a great department. Cops were cops.
What years were you there in Tulare?
I was there in the 80s. So I was there from 1986 through 1990.
Okay. So you were there when I was in high school.
I was.
And
you were a little asshole.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will tell you this.
I know you're an old man. Come on, Jay. You can't act like I didn't know who you were. And I will tell you this about Tulare PD. Back then, very aggressive. Fair.
We always say this. Visalia and Tulare, 10 miles separates these cities.
That's right.
Worlds apart in thinking.
100%.
And
so how did I reconcile? It's a great question because I grew up in Visalia.
Yeah.
I grew up doing my ride-alongs, with the Logans at Visalia PD. I grew up with my friends over here at Tulare County Sheriff's Department. Totally different than when you end up in Tulare and you're like, wow, okay, these guys take the bulls by the horn. And I'm going to tell you something. The citizens of Tulare knew exactly how the police department operated. And they liked it because people that live in Tulare feel secure.
I was going to say this. Everybody and their mama knew.
Yeah.
You talked back to Tulare PD back then. You were going to get cracked over the head with a flashlight. They didn't take a lot of gruff. But I remember all the scandal.
Yeah.
The scandal from Tulare PD at that time, dude.
Just horrible.
Well, I was going to say,
we talk about burning down the barn, right?
Oh, okay. So I would say this. There was an officer in Tulare, and his name was Tom Henneman.
Yeah.
And so he burned down the Tulare Hotel.
He did.
But he also burned down a tire factory that was on Cross. Well, my apartment, I was a little boy,
right,
was on the backside of that.
Yep.
Me and my mom were out there with water hoses. He almost burned down my apartment, bro.
And you know what he didn't realize? He wasn't thinking because he was really, at that time, he had just slipped a cog.
Yeah.
He had slipped a cog and he was going through some real seriously bad times. By the way, I'm not making zero excuses for this guy.
Oh, no,
All right.
No, I know.
This guy is a real POS. But anyway, he always checked out first officer on the scene. He was always the reporting party for the fires.
Yeah.
He never had the thought process of driving away after setting the fires and then let someone call in the smoke call. He'd get on the radio and so Tulare 9, I'm out on a fire downtown.
Yeah.
Rural fire department. He'd never even thought that was going to pin back to him.
Dude, you want to talk about how everything's connected? That dude.
Yeah.
I think lives with my dad's ex-wife. You know what I mean?
You shared that with me.
Yeah.
Because he's out of prison. He's been out of prison for decades.
But I will tell you this, man. Dude, I mean, there was just always something going on in that little town. I mean, and then I remember that. Do you remember that guy's name was Gunderson? He was a retired FBI agent. He came in, he did this big investigation.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, there was just always something happening.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so for me, it was a little bit of culture shock. For me, it was diving in with both feet. And I had a good career there, but it was. I needed to move on when I did because of some things that had occurred that I had witnessed, that I testified to, that One sergeant got fired and another sergeant got disciplined and 6 other officers got disciplined. DOJ sent investigators in. They occupied 2 of our detectives' offices and changed the locks based on what I witnessed and reported.
Well, and once you do that, dude, I was going to say,
you're a rat.
Yeah. Now you're going to be just treated, ostracized. And,
I had a jacket. But we're not talking, Jay, we're not talking about a situation where, in the heat of the moment, I saw some officers deliver an extra blow to a guy who was already down on the ground. We're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about, in this incident, serious crimes were committed. I witnessed it along with the 5 people on my patrol team and the sergeant on my patrol team.
I was going to say, I remember that one where they chased, some off-duty guys chased a car from Visalia to
Visalia PD alerted us to the situation.
And you know what, man? I mean, honestly, that's when guys start adopting that attitude of because I'm a cop, I can get away with bloody murder. And I applaud you, man, for stepping up, because it takes intestinal fortitude to do it. It takes guts, because the minute you do that, man, honestly, bro, you're lucky you made it out alive.
I knew the consequences. I was 22 years old, Jay, when that incident occurred.
So you're a kid,
but I knew what I saw, and I'm sorry. Police need to be held to a higher standard.
100%.
100%. Or we don't have effective policing. And we have seen how that has played out over the years, right? And am I proud of what I did? No, I'm not proud of what I did, but I'm certainly not ashamed of what I did. Not in the slightest. It needed to be done. These guys probably could have been intervened on years earlier, right? I don't have evidence of that, but I mean, come on. It's like the shoplifter that tells you when you pick him up at Mervin's back in the day, oh, this is the first time I ever shoplifted. And you're saying, yeah, right.
Well, and I'm going to tell you this, that was a different time. It was a different culture.
It was.
And
but my entire team got disciplined. Because what happened that night, without going into details of what these 2 sergeants did, but it started in Visalia with Visalia PD.
But I also remember there was a firearm involved.
There was firearms involved. There was abuse of minors involved. There was abuse of handcuffed minors involved, and committed by 2 off-duty.
Yeah, that should never happen.
And so, but what I thought was really what really caught me off guard was my 5 partners that night and my sergeant that was on duty that night all wrote supplements, and they all colluded in their supplements so that their story would match, so that it would take the 22-year-old and put me on the hot seat as being the guy who wrote a supplement that was inaccurate.
And I would tell you this, for the folks at home, the minute that they did that, that's filing a false police report, which is a crime.
Well, when DOJ came in, and, Lynn Dredge, the city manager.
I remember Lynn.
Lynn is a great human being. Lynn is still with us. But Lynn, as a city manager, had me in the office the next day with the police chief, Roger Hill. And they said, look, this is going to rain down holy fire. But you know what? We believe you 100%. And then I remember Lynn looking at me and he said, son, can you withstand what's coming?
Oh yeah, the heat. Dude.
And I said, all I did in my report was write what happened. He goes, son, can you withstand what's coming? I said, 100%. And he said, then I'm behind you. And you know what, Jay, that's all I needed.
Well, that's and listen to this, man. Again, everything's so connected. I graduated high school with Lynn's daughter. Her name was Jill.
Yeah.
I lived 5 blocks from them.
Yeah.
And
great people, right?
Oh, dude, they were awesome. And, but I want to kind of move on real fast.
Sure.
Can you walk us through the machete incident where you earned Porterville's Medal of Distinguished Service? What stands out most about that day?
Wow. So, it's one of those things. It's one of those incidents that occurs, and you train, right? You train, you think you're mentally prepared for a lot of different things, and then something happens and you're just like, wow. And all you can do, Jay, is fall back on your training.
100%.
Because you can't possibly be ready for what you're about to witness. This was one of those cases. My partner, Jeff, was dispatched out as primary, but I happened to be a lot closer. And what had happened was a youngster inside of a Hmong mini mart or supermarket. It was, you remember we had the big influx of Hmongs in the 1990s, right?
I do.
So we had a lot of them in Porterville. And there was this one store that carried all their foods and whatnot. And it was Hmong owned. And the woman that was running the store had an ex-husband. Well, in their country and in their culture, you're never really the ex-husband, right?
Yeah.
You always own her. And she was trying to live her life and run this store. And there was a child in the back of the store, and he sees a guy come in the front doors with these 2 machetes. And so the little boy runs out of the back door of the store. And then he's the one that runs next door, and they call the police. And so all I know going is we have an 8-year-old reporting party of a man who came in the store with 2 machetes who started to attack the female clerk.
Wow.
Yeah. And I arrived, Jay, sometimes God is just so good in that he puts someone that close. I was only about 3 blocks away when the call came in, and Jeff was on the other side of town rolling code. And I get there and I pop out of my cruiser, and it's a storefront window, but the windows are all tinted. I hate that.
Yeah, because you can't see in.
Business people really need to think about tinting their windows, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so I peer in through the glass. Now you're up close because the front door's locked. I'd already grabbed the door and found it was locked. Now I'm peering in through the front door. And those ice cream freezers that have the glass that push back?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, he had taken her and had thrown her into that. And she's on her back. Think of it, an upside down turtle, right?
Yeah.
And he's got a machete in each hand, and he is just whacking her with all of his might. I don't know the connection. I don't know who he is. I don't know who he is to the victim. All I know is if she's not dead, she's going to be dead very quick.
Oh, yeah, machete. Yeah.
So I stepped back, and I ran and I shouldered it, and I threw myself through the plate glass window of the store.
I'm surprised you didn't just shoot through the window.
Well, Jay, I stepped back, and when I tried to get site acquisition, I couldn't get site acquisition because of the tent.
Yeah.
And my thought was, if I don't hit him and I hit her, I'm doing damage instead of saving.
Yeah.
I did for a moment thought, oh, this is the way I'm going to handle this, until you step back and you don't have site acquisition. So I kept my weapon down low because I didn't want to holster it, because I know I was going to need it as soon as I got in the store. I shouldered through, I threw myself through the window. And as I came up and rolled up, I'm underneath his chin. He's standing over her like this. And I said, some colorful words.
Oh, yeah.
But also indicating drop it now. And he dropped him, and he said, it's okay. She's my wife. And I popped 2, holstered, threw him down, got him handcuffed. There were 2 civilians walking by on the street. We would call them goat ropers back in the day, a couple of young cowboy kids. And they were walking by, and they said, do you need help? I said, yeah, come over here and sit on this guy. And they came inside the store, and they sat on him. And he was handcuffed, and they sat on so I could tend to her.
Was that when were you guys still rocking those 45s there? I remember 40. You guys always had those 45s.
We did,
right?
but you know what I was carrying? I was carrying a 357 Smith.
Oh,
because
686?
I had the 586.
Okay,
yeah, I had the
all
blue
right.
steel.
So little 6-shot.
Yeah, a little 6-shot,
yeah.
With the speedy loaders.
Yeah.
But long story short, she ended up living through the event. And
God bless you, brother.
Well, when we got to court, she chose not to prosecute because he'd do his time here. She had him deported with a criminal record, and that made him ineligible to ever come back. And she told me after court, she goes, this is a life sentence for me. Because he'll never be able to come touch me. This is as good as if he was put away for life. But when the chief called me in the office and told me he was going to put me up for the award, this is the equivalent of the Medal of Valor. We didn't have the Medal of Valor at the police department at the time.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm going to put you up for the Medal of Distinguished Service. He goes, here's the deal. I'm not awarding you the medal. I kind of am, but not really, for your quick response and your quick decisiveness once you realized you couldn't get site acquisition, because I'd written a pretty detailed report.
Which chief was this?
Woody Harrelson was his name. Not Woody Harrelson. Woody Wilson.
Okay.
Williams.
Okay.
Woodrow Williams.
Okay.
He was a Baptist pastor turned police chief. But Woodrow Williams was just a hell of a police chief and a really great guy. And he said, but what you did was you had a green light situation the entire time. But as soon as you rolled up and you got site acquisition, as you're looking up at him, you chose not to pull the trigger because he dropped his knife. He dropped his blades and said, she's my wife. He said, Patrick, you could have blown him out of his socks.
Yeah.
And no one would have been the wiser. He goes, that kind of amazing restraint under extreme duress is exactly why I've made the decision to give you the award.
I'd probably would have shot the windows out from a different angle, and then, popped him. And, retrospect, right?
There's a lot of different ways to look at that, right? I get it. My partner, Jeff, when he showed up said, hey, a couple pops to the corners of the windows and you're not throwing your shoulder through. And it's like,
yeah, but you know what, man? We've all been there. Hindsight's 20/20, brother. And man, God bless you.
It worked.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say that the first officer there would have done something similar and she would have been saved. But when the stitch count was done, she had over 3,200 stitches, Jay.
And I touched on this my last episode. I said, there's cops and then there's people that pretend to be cops. And,
absolutely.
And I will tell you this, I wasn't there, but dude, that right there, that's on stud status, bro. It just is, dude.
It definitely, I think you're going to relate to this. There's still nights when I wake up.
Oh yeah.
I still wake up to that.
I tell you something.
There's several things I still wake up to, but that's one of them. Because, honestly, Jay, I really don't know where the fortitude came not to pull the trigger, because at the time I went in, I'd already made a decision I was killing this man.
Yeah. Are you bothered by leg veins of any size, or is leg swelling or pain bugging you or someone you know? I would recommend that you make an appointment with our friends at Sequoia Vein and Wound to take care of it. With a friendly bilingual staff and their years of experience, they are happy to help resolve those issues. Give them a call to get a consult at 559-713-6478 and tell them that Jay Mac sent you.
And it was just it all from crashing through the window and rolling up right under him. I literally rolled up to his feet as I was rolling in. And
well, you're lucky you didn't get cracked with that machete.
The chief said he could have came down on you with a downswing.
I would tell you this, this, man. We always say this. You have a vote. The suspect has a vote.
That's right.
But Murphy's Law has a vote too.
That's exactly right.
And man. And so God bless you. You've described one event as the fight of your life with a PCP influenced assailant who got a hold of your firearm. How did you summon the willpower and the tactics to survive that moment? And for the folks at home, this story is going to blow people's hair back. People, and you know what's so funny?
Yeah.
Nobody knows this about you, bro.
You know what?
I know it, but
you know it because we've been friends forever.
Yeah.
But I mean, the reality is, it's not the kind of thing. I've been shot at 5 times, and having to do the deed. But the way this story plays out as I tell it, my firearm. Let me tell the story.
Yeah.
So I was a motor officer at the time in Porterville, and motor officers, we write tickets and we work accidents. And a call came in, and I was sitting at Veterans Park. Do you know where Veterans Park is in Porterville? Okay, so I'm sitting on the sidewalk watching Wenatchee High School traffic, right? And a call comes in from the hot dog stand down the way, very similar to our local hot dog stand, Taylor's, but it was called Gray's Chili Dogs.
Yeah.
And there was a 17-year-old girl working there, and she's telling the 911 dispatcher that there's a really big, tall, redheaded man who just tore the bars off of the chili stand, and she was working it by herself, and he was screaming at her, "I'm going to fucking kill you."
Yeah.
And she called and was, the dispatcher, when she put it out over the radio, was completely rattled because she's the one that's on the line with this young lady.
Yeah.
And so the caller believes she's going to die. This guy had just taken the steel window coverings and ripped them off out of the wood studs that they were poured into. And I was at Wenatchee. So Gray's to Wenatchee, if you don't take the street and you take the sidewalk, you're there in less than a minute.
Yeah, it's real close.
I never dumped down onto the street because it was lunch hour traffic, brother.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have got there. I would have been stuck in lunch hour traffic. So I stayed on the sidewalk at Veterans Park, and I rode all the way to Gray's Chili Dog on my motorcycle. And it was a big shopping center, and we had a Mervyn's in there that was the anchor, and a lot of other stores. There was a video spot and all that kind of stuff in there. And I roll up, and this guy is 6'4", came in at 270 pounds. Bright red hair.
Big man.
Bright red hair. We find out later he'd been smoking meth for 3 days. He'd been on a bender. But as I got there, Jay, I'm not kidding you. This stand, which was very similar to the one we had in town named Taylor's, is literally made out of wood construction, right? And it's as important to the people of Porterville as Taylor's is to us.
Oh, yeah.
Taylor's is an institution. Well, Gray's Chili Dogs is an institution. Yeah. And when I pull up, all I can hear is this young lady screaming. And this guy is pulling this hut apart one piece at a time. So I popped off my motorcycle, and we had I didn't know how worthless. Did you ever have an expandable PR-24?
Yes.
Oh my
Why
God.
the old Monadnock?
I whip it out and I throw it down on my belt. And it had to be expandable because I was riding a motorcycle, right?
Yeah.
So you couldn't have the full length PR24 on. So I whip that into place and clip it back on my belt. And I run up on the guy and I turn him around. I said, "Hey, it's you and me now, not you and her." He goes, "I'm going to kill her." And I'm like, "No, you got to kill me first." And I could just tell there was just, you faced PCP down before.
100%, brother.
Look, brother, you don't need a urine test to figure out when somebody is either on PCP or they are just out of their mind.
Well, plus, man, they got that 1,000-yard stare.
That 1,000-yard stare. They're sweating profusely in weather that doesn't require you to be sweating. They're doing that high step. Everything they do is like when you get that new set of eyeglasses and you can't figure out distance and whatnot. And he's tearing this thing apart. And I turn around at him. I said, "Well, you're going to have to get through me if you want to kill her." And he said, "Fine." And he came running at me. And I ran through the parking lot. I made him chase me. I'm not going to lie, but I had to get him away from her.
Yeah.
And it was a huge parking lot. We had a McDonald's, all kinds of stuff.
I know right where that parking lot is.
Yeah, it was. So I took her closer to the center of the parking lot. So now I've got him about 200 feet away from her. And that's when I turn around and I've got the PR24. I pull it off my belt. And as he runs up on me, it's whack. First one. I hit him so hard.
I was going to say, but that stuff doesn't, those guys, they know no pain compliance.
Zero pain. So, you know that phencyclidine, PCP, people say that it gives them superhuman strength. It really doesn't. What it does is it anesthetizes their entire body.
Yeah, they don't feel anything.
It was made to be a large animal surgery tranquilizer, right?
Yeah.
So when a human consumes it, they have no feeling at all. And I took it and I gave him that upswing and then I followed it back up, the upswing followed back up by 2, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm hitting him with all my might.
And ain't doing nothing.
And he is looking at me and he just goes, wham. And he makes contact with me. And I'm like, oh man. And I had already put out an $11.99 after I was chasing him through the parking lot trying to get him away.
Plus, man, that's so close to the PD. I mean, how did nobody get there?
Dude, 9 minutes and 19 seconds. Dude, 9 minutes and 19 seconds. Let me tell you.
I mean, just listen to this.
Mike Tyson needs to rest after 3 minutes of fighting, brother.
I was going to say.
I fought for 9 minutes and 19 seconds.
I mean, when I'm listening to this, I'm already pissed off.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's so close to the PD.
Yeah.
You're talking blocks.
Blocks.
And
I wasn't even the dispatched officer.
And I would tell you this: there should have been 5 cops there. But it's sad because this is when the system fails.
Yeah.
And you are actually lucky that you're not dead.
100%.
And you're actually lucky that you didn't come out seriously disfigured or injured for life.
Let me tell you, Jay, I have no shame in telling you, he scarred me. In 9 minutes and 19 seconds, he laid some really good licks. In 9 minutes and 19 seconds, I laid some really good licks.
Yeah.
I literally couldn't collapse my baton when I was done, and I couldn't figure out why. It's because I bent it.
Yeah,
but if you remember those expandables, the bottom half that came out was fiberglass, dude.
It was, and you know what? They're worthless. They were cheaply made.
They're worthless.
They were more for looks than they were
convenience. Motor officer.
Yeah. Because you're right. It has to be collapsed.
But here's the deal. We're fighting, and we're in this parking lot, and people are just stopping all around us. We had officers checking 1023 arriving on scene. I'd put out my distress call. And it was, like I said, it was 9 minutes and 19 seconds before I got help. But we had officers checking out 1023. I'm on scene about 4.5 minutes in. But they could not get to me because of the number of cars, because it was lunchtime for Wenatchee, and it was lunchtime for the whole city, right? And they were all pulling in, and they're seeing this chaos going on. So all the first few cars from each direction, the only 2 dump-in spots from the parking lot, were all the way backed out to the street. And the officers couldn't get in. And what they didn't think is, well, I'm just going to abandon my patrol car.
I was going to say, jump out and run. Yeah,
brother, It was a complete failure. It was a complete failure. And a woman that later wrote the Porterville Recorder, and that was the newspaper at the time in Porterville. And she said, I'm watching this young officer fight for his life. And all I kept thinking is, there must be 300 people in the parking lot watching this happen, and no one's coming to his aid. And I'm with my 2-year-old and my 4-year-old inside McDonald's, or I would have gone out to see if I could help.
And you know what's sad? And I think it's even got worse now, brother, because now what do people want to do? They want to film it with their phone.
And seeing back in this time, no one was pulling out an iPhone to film me, right?
Yeah.
None of that was going on.
How did he get your gun?
So we fought. And, the baton was rendered useless. I don't use pepper spray. I'm sorry.
It works better on cops than it does on bad guys.
Dude, and I'd already figured out, as hard as I was hitting him, I'd already figured out he had to be PCP.
Yeah.
It's not going to, he's going to wipe his chops.
Yeah.
And so, when all you have now is your baton or lethal, all I kept thinking is, I'm not breaking leather. I'm not taking this gun out of the holster. There's no way in hell I'm going to take my gun out of the holster, because I thought, how many times have we seen where a person is killed by their own sidearm?
And I would tell you this, just listening to this story, I think it would have been justified if you had popped him.
Well, it just about got there.
It
just about got there. And, some other people tried intervening, tried some different ways. An armored truck had pulled up. And, they can't pop out of their truck.
Yeah.
But they got on their loud hailer and they're telling the guy, stop resisting the officer or we will run you down. Stop resisting the officer. We'll run you down. And I pushed him in front of the truck and I yelled, run him down.
Yeah.
And they stayed in park, And anyway, what happened was, here we are fighting. We're trading blows. And I'm going to be honest, Jay, I'm making space, because I keep thinking, if I take too many hits from this guy, he's going to put me out and then I'm gone.
Yeah.
If he gets me out, I'm gone.
I was going to say, we always create distance when you can't. If you're ineffective, get distance. That at least gives you time to either get your breath, figure out a new tactic, wait for backup to get there.
There are at least 6 or 7 times in these 9 minutes where I had run another 50 to 75 feet away just so I could catch my breath.
Well, I was going to say too, I bet you at this point now you're starting to gas out.
Oh, dude, I was gassing out.
Yeah, man.
Dude, take your baton to a heavy bag, right, and hit it 20 times, and look at how tired you are just doing that. To say I hit this guy 20 times, I hit him 20 times in the first 2.5 minutes. In this entire fight, he probably took 80 blows from me. But he just stayed on his feet the whole time, just boxing me. And I just decided I'm going to try a sleeper. And back in the day, we were still able to use that LAPD sleeper hold, right?
Yeah, and for the folks at home, we call it the carotid.
The carotid.
Me and the Nick guy in the academy, just to be, we thought it was funny. We used to call it the carotid, because that's how it's spelled.
That's exactly how it's spelled.
Yeah.
Carotid's a big word. We're just cops, right?
Yeah.
So I decided I'm gonna go for the LAPD. And I had never put someone to sleep on the sleeper hold. I had been taught it in the academy, and I had put someone to sleep in the academy. But in real life, IRL, as I say today, I'd never tried it. And I'd never tried it on someone PCP'd. I'd never tried it on somebody that much bigger than me. I'd never tried it on someone who'd beaten the hell out of me. I have no shame saying he had beat the hell out of me. Jay, he'd beat the hell out of me.
And I would say this, for the folks at home, the carotid, what they do is you cut off the circulation on both sides of the neck.
Right.
It stops the flow of blood to the brain. And then what it does is it renders them unconscious.
That's what it does.
In theory, that's how it's supposed to work.
Right. So as I was running one of these times, I ran circles around him. And this guy, he's just big and lumbering, and he's wondering, why am I running circles now? Because I had been running dashes, and he would just catch it up and close the distance. So now I'm running circles, and all I did was ran circles until I had a chance to jump on his back. I jumped on his back. I've got him in the prime spot. I got my bicep in the right spot. I got my forearm in the right spot, and I'm applying now, and I'm pushing, and I'm praying, Jesus, help me. Get this guy asleep. And then I hear crack.
Yeah.
I hear crack, and I felt the gun come off my holster. Dude, you remember these holsters. I was carrying the Smith & Wesson Security 3 holster.
Yeah, and for the folks at home, that's 3 buttons.
Yep.
You have one, and then you have 2 with these fingers. Boom, boom. Push down, back out, and then it would come out. So it
does not come out if you pull it up.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But for somebody to be strong enough to rip that out, I was going to say that's some serious strength.
No, he ripped it out, and he's trying to get his arm up. He's got my gun clearly in his hand, and he's trying to get it pointed back at me. He wants to blow my head off.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I realized if he pulls the trigger, I'm dead anyway. Not today, buddy. And I went from the sleeper hold to the choke hold, which that's where you move the emphasis now to using your forearm.
Not here. It's
now you're
here.
crushing you're crushing the windpipe.
Yeah.
And the reason why you don't use it, you're taught because you remember when we're in the academy, we're taught improvised weapons, right?
Yeah.
If you need to use your flashlight, if you need to use a rock, if you're in the fight for your life, you find out whatever's on the ground next to you, and that's what you use, right? That's what you use. Well, I was up on his back, and I had him in a sleeper, and it wasn't putting him to sleep, so I went straight to the chokehold. And I crushed his windpipe. I cut off his ability to breathe, and he fell down lifeless to the ground.
And you know what? You know what's a trip? That hold is now outlawed.
It is. It's completely outlawed.
And
the sleeper and the choke.
But what's funny is, I've used the carotid on people, and
it's effective.
It is effective. But in your situation, here's the nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
Think about if you use that today.
I know.
I mean, you would probably be looking at prison, bro.
Absolutely.
And
even if I was found justified, because I use an unauthorized hold.
Yeah.
So
but give the folks at home what happens when one of the supervisors gets there, because again, here we have one of the supervisors that goes off script.
Yeah, he shows
a bad actor.
He shows up about 16 minutes in. Right. So backup finally got there. They finally did abandon their cars and come in on foot, and they have initiated CPR, and I'm laying on the ground. I am trying to catch. I bet
you're exhausted.
Dude, I'm trying to catch breath, and I'm laying on the ground, and then I sit up, and then I've got my head between my legs, and I'm just trying to suck in air. I have nothing left in me. And my sergeant comes up to me, and he says, I don't know what the F happened here, but you better hope that MFer doesn't effing die. And I said, let him die.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm putting that in the report. I said, go ahead on. And he did. And he turned around and walked away from me. He didn't, dude, my uniform was ripped to holy hell. My gun had been ripped out of my holster. My holster is off of my belt. I'm tore up. Dude, he got some serious punches in on me.
And that was Silver, wasn't it?
I will only confirm the man's name is a color or a precious metal.
Yeah.
And
tell us the story why he got demoted, dude.
Well, I know that story too, but J Mac, I'm not going to sit here and throw mud, but brother, look, at the end of the day, where I was disappointed was,
God bless you, dude.
This is my boss showing up, and he says, you better hope he doesn't die. And he has no idea what I had gone through.
You know what?
Zero
I would say this. I told one of our chiefs one time that, not as bad as yours, but I had to fight somebody and they got injured, and, she was ripping me pretty good. And I said, Chief, would you rather the suspect go to the hospital or me go to the hospital? Right. And the sad part is obviously the whole thing that you just went through is a complete and utter clusterfuck. And, but it's sad, man, because you're lucky you're not dead.
No,
and when a supervisor shows up and does that.
Yeah. He didn't even ask me, are you okay?
Well, oh yeah. Cause honestly, and here's the sad part, they don't care.
They don't care. He was straight about, I hope you didn't kill the perp. And without asking me anything about what had happened, he literally walked to me as soon as he pulled in, because he didn't pull in until cars had cleared out and he could pull in his car, because he's not going to walk in, right?
No, yeah.
No, he can't walk in.
Yeah, that's beneath him, dude.
Yeah, it's beneath him to walk in, and he doesn't even ask me if I'm okay.
You know what, dude? And I've been in some things like that where, they start yelling, pointing fingers, throwing the weight around, and you're like, hey, dude, I just almost died.
Yeah. I was bleeding from several portions of my body, brother.
Let me get my breath.
Yeah.
And then we will talk.
Yeah. Okay. So the protocol is that if you take an action that is likely to be a fatal action, a deadly intervention, right, you have to render first aid. But the law also says, unless unable to do so.
Well, if you can't breathe, you can't help.
I could not breathe. I had no strength in my arms left. I was completely, you can go to the gym and exhaust your muscles, right? You can do that. You can do bench presses until you hit the point of exhaustion, muscle failure. When you're fighting for your life, and then that adrenaline dump comes in, you got
adrenaline, you can't breathe. Well, I know we could probably do a whole episode on this, but as a school resource officer and a DARE officer, what did you learn about reaching kids and building community trust?
Brother, as I indicated earlier on, a lot of people think that the officers that take school assignments have been punished somehow. And, there's a lot of truth to it. If you go back to my days in law enforcement, the guys that ended up in the schools weren't really guys that were putting in for it. It was kind of like, hey, you're going to do this for a couple of years because you're on the crap list.
Well, and I would tell you this, I got to do it for 8 years collectively through my.
I did collectively 8.5 years.
Yeah. And you know what? It was my favorite assignment.
Without a doubt.
Because, I mean, a lot of guys, they used to call me kindergarten cop.
Right.
Hey, Jay, you're nothing but a kindergarten cop. And I used to go like this. Well, wait a minute. I work Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. Holidays, weekends off. I get detective pay.
Right.
Which one of us is the dumb one? You're working graveyards, patrol with midweek off.
Yeah.
And, but you know what I loved? I loved meeting people. I loved being around educated people.
Yep.
It elevated my game.
Right.
And I mean, dude, me and my wife will be out in town or at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And people will come up to me and they'll go, Officer McWilliams. The minute that they say that, I knew that they were one of my kids.
That's right.
And you know what I hear more often than not?
Yeah.
You saved me. You did stuff for me. And
I think I told you the story, Jay. I mean,
I get emotional talking about this, bro, because, you know, man, it's like we reached people. You know, people do, they look down upon that school resource officer position.
Yeah.
But it was dude, I mean, I got police officer of the year as a school resource officer.
Dude, it's the best assignment in law enforcement.
It really is.
It's the best assignment in law enforcement. And for officers that go an entire career and are given the opportunity, but turn their nose up to it, they don't know what they're missing. When I left law enforcement and people would ask me about it, I'd say, you know, when you're pushing around a black and white, you're a functionary.
Yeah.
The day after I left, they assigned my car to somebody else. My MDT, my computer, went to somebody else. And the calls that were going to me went to somebody else.
Yeah.
And they're out handling the calls for service that I'd be handling if I was there. The schools, it was there, brother. You know, I had a lot of great assignments. I've done detectives. I've done fatal accident collision investigations. I've done motors. And I enjoyed every one of those assignments. But there's nothing like feeling like you're reaching people before you need to be arresting people.
And I would tell you this, man. You know what I liked? I liked being alone.
Yeah.
Because that was my show.
Right.
And, you know, I didn't have to deal with a supervisor breathing down my neck.
Right.
I didn't have to deal.
They didn't want to hear about your problems in school. I mean, come on. Where they would come get in the middle of your crap out in the field, they're not going to come get in the middle of it at school.
Well, and I would tell you this, man, you know, when I was at Redwood, you know, man, I hooked and booked 200 kids in 2 years, bro. And I couldn't stand the principal, man. You know, he's on the school board now, man. And I'm like, how did that happen, dude? But you know, I think in that time, and there was an assistant principal there. His name was Lou Irwin. And if not for him, I would have split, dude, 100%. Because I love that man.
Yeah.
He's like my father. My real dad is deceased. He's really like a father figure to me.
Yeah.
And dude, we were the 1-2 knockout. You came to Redwood, you brought drugs or a weapon, or you were selling drugs, or you were doing something, I was going to put you in jail, and then he was going to expel you.
Jay, Redwood is the largest campus in the city.
Oh yeah,
2,600 kids.
It's massive,
and it's my alma mater. Go Redwood!
Yeah,
to this day, I'm the voice of the Redwood Rangers. You know that I do all of their sports announcing, and I've been doing it over a decade. But that school needs an officer that's going to be 100% committed. All of our schools need that. But, you know, Redwood needed it at the time you were there. And you had a reputation when you were there that you were firm, but you were fair.
100%.
And people knew that if they crossed the line, they're going to deal with you one way or the other. And that was when I moved from DARE into school resources, that's when I worked in high school campuses, that's all I wanted the kids to know. It's going to be firm, but fair.
I would tell you this, you know, I look back on those times, and it made me a better officer.
Yeah.
It made me a better father. But I would tell you this, bro, it made me a better person.
I would say a better human being.
You know,
brother.
man, because I just come out of patrol. And, you know, all we do is see the negatives.
Yep.
And it was really good to go into an environment where now I'm doing positive things. I'm being around positive people. And man, bro, I mean, it really did. And I always say this, I did the worst thing you could ever do. I did a good job. I got police officer there. And then they forced me to go to the gang in it.
Right.
You know?
Well, you know, and here's the thing. You know, because, you know, it always comes down to budget, brother.
Yeah.
Every year I found myself going to school board meetings and to city council meetings trying to justify, because the city and the school district split my pay and benefits.
They still do.
And you know, and every year it would come up on the chopping block. And so I'd end up going to these meetings and I'd say, okay, let's just talk about 2 kids this year. And I'd bring up stories about 2 kids, right?
Yeah.
And I'd say, and I would tell them how it affected their life, and they would say, well, the curriculum hasn't been proven. The DARE curriculum hasn't been proven as effective. And I said, no, but the presence of a positive role model. I had schools, Jay, some of the schools in my assignment had less than 30% of homes with dads in them.
And you know what? And I would tell you this, that's a real issue. And I think it's pretty close. And I would tell you this, I run into the staff from Redwood and a lot of those people still there.
Yeah.
You know what they tell me? Jay, we should have a statue of you at this school, man, for the stuff that you did.
I would agree with that.
And man, it's good to hear.
I know your work, brother.
Again, we could do a whole episode of this, but what was the hardest part of policing for you? Not physically, but emotionally or even morally?
My enemies.
Yeah.
And they all wore uniforms.
Yeah.
I said I wasn't going to blow anything up here, J-Mac, so I'm going to do my best. But I don't think the average civilian understands that I've stared down a lot of guns. I've stared down a lot of knives. I've been stabbed. I have had the fight of my life. I have done the ultimate deed, if you will.
Yeah.
We've been involved in some heinous stuff. I've been that guy who shows up and there's someone waiting to kill themselves. They're waiting for the police officer to arrive before they kill themselves, and you witness that, and you're supposed to be able to live with that, right? But going back to the story about my supervisor that showed up at that very unfortunate situation.
Well, you know what? And honestly, Pat, it was either you or him.
It was me, dude. He had my gun. He was trying to get a bearing on my head. It was literally he or I.
I always say this. If it comes down to you or them, that really is no choice.
There's no choice.
And
there's no choice.
And
my son wasn't even 2 years old yet, Jay.
Yeah.
No, there is no choice. I'm going to die making sure I'm not the one that dies.
Yeah.
But too often your enemies are wearing insignias on their collars.
Oh yeah.
And that was probably the biggest part that disillusioned me from my very first events where the 2 sergeants were involved in the crimes that I had to report. All the way through my career, it ended up being, and it didn't matter if they had 5 stars on their collar or butter bars on their collar or chevrons on their collar.
I will tell you this, man. I said a bold statement recently and somebody said, unfortunately, Jay, it's so true. I said, if I see somebody wearing stars or bars, I already don't like them.
Right.
And dude, and that's sad, man,
right,
to have to admit that.
Yeah. But you mentioned a guy on your last episode that he ended up wearing butter bars and even more at Visalia, and that's Steve Pewter. And he's one of the most stand-up cops I've ever known in my life. And how he was able to be, because I worked with him early in the career back in Tulare. And then I knew him, of course, when he came over here, but to watch him go through a career and be unaffected by what authority does to some people.
Yeah, I can honestly tell you, man, I always looked at him as kind of a sweetheart. You know what I mean? And he was always very nice to me.
Yeah. But very smart and very logical. That's why he was police brass materials, because if your chief had an assignment that needed to be thought out and then delegated properly, Steve was your guy to do it.
Well, I would tell you this, with him, I look at him and I think in my mind, a couple things. Number one, he never spoke to me in a way that made me feel bad.
Right.
Where a lot of the supervisors literally they spoke just like we were garbage, bro.
Right.
Dude. I mean, I think of little Napoleon, dude. I mean, dude, he was horrible, dude.
Yeah.
And you think in your times, it's like, hey, let's treat our people well, but we don't. And, I mean, another one was, Rick, Rick was great, bro. Great. I mean, Rick knew how to talk to people. Yeah. Brian Winter, BW, another dude,
great
just
guy.
Knew how to talk to people, loved cops.
A lot of respect for those guys.
And yes, they treated people well.
That's right.
And, each one of those guys, I would walk through fire for those guys.
But it's a shame that for each one of them.
Oh, there's 10 that are horrible.
You can't trust.
Oh, 100%.
There's ladder climbers, and it's horrible. If you can't get promoted based on your intelligence, your work ethic, and what you bring to the table, but you get promoted because you're willing to step on absolutely everybody you need to get promoted, that's a pretty sad day. And honestly, the people that created the most grief in my life, in my career was in law enforcement, were the supervisors.
Oh yeah, dude.
That's I guess I am kind of saying some negative stuff
Well,
right now. I really didn't want to, but I mean, if it's true, it's true.
And no, and I would tell you this. This what I told you. This what I said on my last podcast. I'm going to give it to people real.
Yeah.
You may not like what I say, but I'm going to give it to you real.
Yeah.
You testified against fellow officers
Yeah.
and supervisors for misconduct,
Yeah.
even when it came at personal cost.
Yeah.
What gave you the courage to do that, brother?
My mom came over to America at the age of 17, an immigrant from Ireland who did it through the port of entry.
Okay.
Did it the legal way.
God bless her.
My father's family even came in the legal way through the south border. My mom came over at 17 with $200 and one suitcase. I still have her suitcase, Jay. It's literally about 14 inches by 8 inches.
No.
That's all she had to her name when she came to America. And she was sponsored over. And
well, you know what that is, bro? That's the American dream.
That is the American dream.
It's the American dream. And then look at this. And then to have three sons
and a daughter, and three of us went to law enforcement.
I was saying, and then
and we're all educated.
Yeah,
and we're three of us in law enforcement. Very successful careers. Everybody's got an advanced degree. My sister, who's a wonderful human being, thank God she didn't go into law enforcement because she has no place in law enforcement, right?
Yeah.
But all of us boys did, and we've had successful careers. My youngest brother just retired out and very high in the state of California. So proud of him. And then, of course, you mentioned Phil. He's winding down. He's working for the state now, and he's got a great job. But my mom instilled in me at a very young age that if you're not a productive human being, then that means you're just sucking up oxygen. And she instilled in me faith.
Yeah.
My Christian faith. She instilled that in me, a work ethic. And then she also said that if you're not giving back from what you're making, then you're no better than anybody.
I would tell you this, man. Our stories are obviously different, man, but my mom didn't graduate high school.
Yeah. And my mom didn't either. My mom had a 7th grade education, brother.
And then look at me, here I am with a master's degree, and,
right.
Families are always rising and falling in America, but
my mom raised us to believe in certain values. And whenever I had a doubt or a question, I would think, what would my mother expect of me right now? Not being a mama's boy, being a man, recognizing that she busted her ass to raise the four of us without my dad in the picture and the heinous things that happened to her at his hands. And yet we all went to private school, and she was a waitress at the Vintage Press, bro.
Did you guys go to McCann?
We did.
Okay.
All of us.
George McCann is a
parochial school.
Yeah, parochial school. Yeah.
And do that on a waitress's salary, brother.
Yeah, awesome.
Do that. People make excuses today for why they can't afford this or that. She did on waitress's salaries,
hey, man,
right?
3 words, brother. Impressive. Most impressive, man.
Oh, thank you. That's where the work ethic came from that you're asking about, though.
How did those experiences shape your philosophy on accountability within law enforcement?
Well, that's a pretty easy one to answer. And it's really kind of sad because no one wants to carry around a jacket like I did. It followed me more than 20 years later after getting back into law enforcement after starting my first business. I landed back at a local police department, and I worked there for 8 years. I was over in Farmersville for the last 8 years.
All right.
And a great community, a hardworking community, a labor-intensive community. And it's literally because of now the way the city limit signs are, it's literally less than 3/4 of a mile away from the city of Visalia on Walnut.
Yeah.
And
what Exeter's what? I don't know, 2-3 miles away.
Exeter's 3 miles to the east. Yeah. But I went there for my last 8 years, and I was running my company full time. And more than 20 years between the sergeant issue that I had in Tulare, and now I find myself facing another criminal activity that happens right in front of me. and it's like
and the hits just keep on
keep on coming, and I wanted to go back to law enforcement. I went back to the academy, Jay Mac, to get my my post renewed so I could go be a police officer.
And how old
again.
are you at this time?
When I went back to the academy, I was 40 years old. and but I wanted back on the job, and there was a chief there that said, yeah, he said, I'll help you however I can, and I worked there for 8 years. And
what chief was that?
That was Mario Christic.
Oh yeah. Because he was there for a long time.
Long time. Yeah.
Do you think police culture has changed since those incidents, or are those same challenges still present today?
J Mac, when I started, I was the youngest guy at the department, and most of the guys that work with me were Vietnam veterans.
Oh yeah, so that was a whole different culture,
different era, different culture, and different rules of engagement. And for me,
those guys were men.
They were men.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because this happened again in the Obama administration, I don't know if you remember this, but President Obama putting out an initiative to fire departments and police departments that if they hired veterans that were a year or less out of theater, that the first 3 years would be subsidized by the government. Do you remember that?
I did not know that.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
So Barack Obama did that. And at the time I thought, oh my God, this is a huge mistake. And I remember talking to somebody back at the time, one of my buddies back at the time, and he's like, why is this a mistake? And I said, because his requirement is they have to be out of theater no more than 12 months. Well, in 12 months out of your operational guidelines and your rules of engagement are still fresh in your brain.
They are. And then here's the other problem.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys had PTSD.
They hadn't been properly treated.
They know our tactics.
They know our tactics, and here we're putting police uniforms on. And so then, if you'll remember, during the latter part of Barack Obama's term, and this isn't a political statement, this is just what happened.
Yeah.
The police shootings and whatnot were going through the roof, and it was all these youngsters that were coming back and being subsidized to go to work. Now, I believe his heart was in the right place. I may not have believed in his politics, but I have no problem, Democrat or Republican in office. If it's my president, that's my commander in chief.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. The day after every election, Jay, you know what I did the day after every election? I put on my pants, put on my shirt, and I went to work.
Yeah.
I didn't have the time or inclination to get on the internet and just gripe all day about whoever the commander in chief was.
I'm the same way.
However, I'll tell you this, even if Barack's vision was well intended, it was not well executed. And we saw this huge spike in all of these situations where officers were using too much force, engaging in firearms way too quick. But you can look at it logically and say, I get it. Yeah. These guys they haven't been reacclimated to civilian life. They were in active theater. They're taking gunfire from points unknown and returning fire when they can't see their perpetrator because they were allowed to if they could directionalize the shots.
I would tell you this, man. I knew two guys, both worked at TCSO, both lost people in Iraq, Afghanistan. Yeah. I can't remember which one, but both of them, man, psychologically, man, dude, they were messed up. One showed up to a SWAT call out, dude, drunk, jumps out with a fully automatic M4, and when, obviously he had to be taken offline.
Yep.
But, it's like, I feel sorry for these guys for what they witnessed, man. And I just don't know. You're right. Law enforcement is a different beast.
It's a different beast. It's not military. Law enforcement is as much military as security is as much police work. It's not. My security officers are civilians. We don't even have rules of engagement. Yeah. Police officers have different rules of engagement and have to show amazing restraint. And the military is, when they're in active theater, it's just surviving every day. And so I think his initiative was well intended. I think it was improperly executed. And then when we saw the spike go up in all of these shootings and whatnot, we started taking a serious look at what's causing it. Now you start drawing it together. So to answer your question specifically, no, I don't think the situation's resolved. I don't think the situation is fixed. We can no longer blame it on that particular initiative because it's run its course. But here's the thing. Certain people, we talked about this earlier on, people are drawn to law enforcement with different motivations. Some people enter law enforcement with a motivation that they have no business being in law enforcement. You've worked with people, I've worked with people, had no business being in law enforcement.
Well, yeah, a lot of these guys, they don't last more than, 1 to 3 years.
But how much damage can you do in 1 to 3 years?
A ton
of damage. And so, no, I think the system is still broke. I will tell you that the only thing that's really super tragic about the system being broke, and that I know the people working the streets these days are still fighting the same internal politics that they've had to.
Oh, you ain't kidding.
But now they are the ire and disdain of the public. J-Mac, I didn't work in that environment, brother.
No, I know.
The agencies I worked at, the civilians, for the most part, except for the turds we were dealing with, the civilians appreciated us. I remember being on the call-out team for Rodney King during the riots, and we thought it was bad then. Everybody's running around with those great big camcorders, wanting to catch every police officer, and I would just wave at people with camcorders and say, "Follow me around all day, we'll be good." And but now look at this. Now, every phone, brother.
I was gonna say I met Kuhn at one of the gang conferences, and he was trying to hawk his book and. Talking to him, man, it's sad. I mean, were mistakes made? Obviously. I was well, and see, I was in high school when that happened,
right?
And
I was on the job,
and
but let's not forget.
Oh no,
Rodney was PCP'd up.
Yeah. Well, and I even covered this. You look at LAPD.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, they had Rodney King. Then you had the riots. Then you had OJ.
But back up between Rodney King and OJ. What did you have? You had the Great LA Shootout.
Yes. Oh yeah,
brother. That was 1997.
Yeah.
That changed the face of law enforcement forever.
Yeah, that was the bank robbery where the two guys had AK-47s, and those cops, they had to break into a gun store
and a pawn shop just to get weapons.
And I would tell you this, now we all carry ARs, and it's because of that incident.
Yep.
What would you say to officers who witness misconduct but feel pressure to stay silent?
You're a cop.
Yeah.
Man up.
Yeah.
And if you're a female officer, cowboy up, cowgirl up. It is not easy. Now look, there's a difference between the heat of the moment and maybe someone being a little heavy-handed as they take someone down, and then the person who's actually breaking the law.
Yeah.
We have rules in law enforcement, and you know them as clearly as I do. Once someone's handcuffed, Jay,
it's over.
It's over. No more fighting.
Yeah.
I've witnessed that not be the case. If there are law enforcement officers out there that are letting guys deliver licks after handcuffs are on, then you might as well be delivering the licks yourself.
Well, yeah, that is. It's assault under color of authority. It is a felony, and it's like, hey.
And anyone that's just watching it, what harkens me back to is Floyd.
Well, and I
look at all those cops that were there when George Floyd died. They're all as responsible as Derek Chauvin. I will never, ever make an excuse for that son of a bitch, because I will tell you something, Jay. After the cuffs are on and you've got a big boy like that, you know the rules. Recovery position.
I would tell you this. I remember watching the George Floyd thing, and somebody asked me, Jay, what would you have done? I said, number one, we would have taken him to the ground. We would have got him hooked.
Yep.
We would have got him to his feet.
Yes.
We would have drug him to the car. We would have put him in the back, and we would have been over.
Yep.
And
but see, they couldn't get him in the back of the Explorer. If that's the part of the video they never show. They couldn't get him in the Explorer because he was too big with his hands cupped behind him. So then what do you go to, Jay? You put him on the curb, legs out in front of him, legs crossed.
Well, if you have to get an ambulance,
and you get an ambo to the scene, you call a bus. You get a bus there. They waited 29 minutes for a paddy wagon. Why not have an ambo take him? Because the man is huge. And he's laying on his stomach, and they're applying pressure to the back of his neck.
I would tell you this.
That's criminal, Jay. And we have to be able to call it out.
No, and I would say
it's criminal.
When I was watching that video, at first I thought, is this one of those false flag things? Because
it was so bad, right?
It was. And it was like, hey, I put my knee on people's necks to get them in handcuffs, but never for 8 minutes and 40 seconds.
Once the handcuffs are on, you're done.
Yeah.
We understand these universal truths to be true when it comes to use of force. When the cuffs are on, the fight is over, and you cannot continue to inflict any type of injury. And if it means with a big guy like George Floyd, you can't fit him in that Explorer, and you're gonna have to wait. Then you sit him up against a wall or on a curb and you put him in recovery position. He needs to be able to breathe.
Well, and think about this, man. I mean, dude, half the country almost burned down over that. Dude.
It was totally avoidable. And I'm saying that every single one of those officers that watched it happen,
they should
just as responsible.
They should all be prosecuted.
All of them should have been prosecuted.
100%. You left law enforcement for a time and rose to become the president of a CEO of a collections agency, eventually grown it by 370%.
Yeah.
What drove you to succeed in that field?
So it's funny. The long and short of it was I was coming out of law enforcement. My family knew it, and my sister was a salesperson for a small collection agency here in the Valley. And she called me one day, And she said, look, I know you're looking for something new now that you've dropped out of law enforcement and you're looking for a new change in your life. I'm going to go in and tell my boss today that I got to give my 2-week notice because I just found out I'm pregnant. I said, where are you working these days? So she told me the name of the company, because the last time I had talked to her, she was working at the bank.
Yeah.
Visalia Community Bank. And she had a great career there. And I said, so let me understand this. Your former senior vice president now owns a collection agency. She was your senior vice president at the bank. You followed her when she started this company. You've only been there for 6 weeks, and now you're going to go turn in your 2-week notice. And you think it'd be a great idea to say, oh, by the way, I want you to meet my brother, Patrick. I think he'd be a great fit. Is that what you're telling me? And she said, well, I mean, if you're going to put it that way.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll meet you there at 11.
Yeah.
And I hit it off really well. And I had told my friends, I had given the allegory of the functionary job, right?
Was it lucrative? Were you making good money?
I wasn't.
Okay.
I was probably getting paid half of what I made as a law enforcement officer.
Okay.
But I had a vision. See, I don't want to come off cocky, Jay, but I've always looked at people in business or anything else, and I'm saying, that guy's doing something pretty good over there. And then I want to watch. I'm going to watch the guy, and I want to say, but he ain't nothing special. I mean, I'm going to give him his credit where his credit's due, but he's not. I can do what he's doing if I just learn how to do it.
Bro, you know what? Somebody just asked me about this, because we've both been around elected officials.
Yeah.
I've been around some congressmen, some senators. We met Kamala. Dude, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, man. I'm gonna say something wild right now.
What's that?
Dude, I ain't been impressed once.
No.
Dude,
No, I'm telling you.
And you just go, dude, come on, man.
Right?
And if they can do it, we can do it.
And that's the position I've always had. And so I had told this woman in that first interview, she had laid out for me her goals, and I knew her background. I knew she'd been the senior vice president of the bank that my sister worked at. I knew her to be an impressive businesswoman. And she says to me, what's your 5-year plan? I said, well, in 5 years, my plan is for you to be on the beach and for me to be the CEO of your company, but for your company to be a lot bigger and making a lot more money than it's making today. Now, mind you, Jay, this business wasn't even a year old. And I'm telling her in 5 years, she's going to be sitting on the beach. And she's like,
God bless you.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
And she said, challenge accepted. And you know what? I put my head down and I moved forward. And I didn't do it in 5 years, J-Mac. She wasn't sitting on the beach in 5 years, but she was there in 4 years and 3 months.
Hey, dude. Awesome, dude. God bless you.
9 months before that mark, 4 years and 3 months, she was able to sell that company. And the buyers did it contingent on me staying on as the president and CEO of the company. So I ended up running the company. They gave me a 4-year contract to run it, a very lucrative deal, which more than made up for what I didn't make those first few years. And it's been no looking back ever since.
Later, you founded the Accelerated Receivables Group.
I did.
Then Echelon Security.
Right.
What lessons from law enforcement carried over into business leadership?
See, here's the thing that most police officers don't understand. You and I both know cops that don't want to be playing the game anymore.
Yeah.
And you and I both know this to be true. It's better to leave law enforcement a year too early than a year too late.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you leave a year too late, you might end up getting arrested.
Well, I was going to say,
you might end up doing something very bad.
I was going to say, and then how many guys do we see that just got kicked out the door?
Kicked out the door.
And
no pension, or maybe they got to keep their pension or whatever. But see, they get this opinion that these values and these traits that we have as police officers don't translate into the private sector. And I'm here to tell you, every trait a good cop has translates into the business community, because your potential hires, your potential bosses are looking at you knowing you've gone through psychological exams. You've gone through the Myers-Briggs written exams.
Yeah.
You have competed for any job you ever got at any department. Any promotion you got, you competed. Anything like that. The private industry does understand that about law enforcement.
Well, and I would tell you this, bro. I remember when I was leaving, there was a lot of guys like, hey, dude, what are you doing?
Right.
And I said, you know what? I had a great career. It's been a 24-year run. I'm going to leave when I want, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bet on me.
That's right.
And you know what? Because a lot of guys, this is all they know.
That's right.
And there's some guys.
But it's not. See, that's what they think. They think it's all they know.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, did I take a pay cut? Absolutely, J-Mac. I took a pay cut, but I had a vision. And I will tell you that today, I don't.
Well, listen to this.
Should I reserve this comment? No, I'm not going to reserve it. I'm going to say it. I make more than the sheriff.
Yeah, good for you, man. God bless you, brother.
And
you
know
deserve
what?
it.
But you know what? I've worked damn hard to get where I'm at. I've had 3 companies, and I've been able to sell 2 of them. And this company today, I have 106 employees. We bust our hump to provide premier services. And I'm sorry, I'm going to take care of myself because I'm 60 years old.
Yeah.
I would start as a police officer 6 months out of high school, brother. I started 6 months out of high school. I deserve, at my age, with all the work I've put in, I have no regrets and I have no shame. And I play my game the way I want to play it. But I know this, I can look myself in the mirror every single day and I can be totally content with the person that I am.
I was going to tell you this, you know what, man? Money doesn't mean anything when you're miserable.
Nope.
And I would tell you this, man. After I retired, I went to work for Amtrak Police.
Tell me why that one ended so quick, brother.
Well, and I would tell you this, man. Great money, because it's kind of pseudo government, you know. But dude, the logistics, brother, it just beat me up, dude. I mean, on my Monday, my wife or my daughter had to drive me to Hanford. I had to jump on a train right at 93 miles to Merced just to pick up my car. Some days I would have to walk from the Amtrak station to the sheriff's office in Merced to pick up my patrol car through a bad neighborhood.
Wow.
What do you think happens? Here comes the gangsters.
Right.
Hey, white boy, what are you doing in our neighborhood?
Right.
And so then I got to drive at 93 miles back home. My office was downtown Fresno, but I was trying to be a cop in Kern County, Kings County, Fresno County, Merced County, and I had to go as far up as Modesto, and with no backup. And but what the final straw for me, man, was like all the training we had to do. I was in Sacramento, every other week or every couple weeks. Dude, they just beat me to death, bro.
Yeah.
And I remember going, Jay, you're killing yourself for money when you don't have to.
You don't have to.
And then I finally had one incident where I thought I'm gonna end up dead. I was downtown Hanford. I'm on my way to the Amtrak station. I'm at 7th right there.
No, well.
And 10 people surround my patrol car. And I was like, what the heck's going on? A guy had just driven through the front doors of a jewelry store, blew his head off. I didn't know that, but people are like, officer, he just drove into that jewelry store. We can hear guns going off. My dispatch is in Connecticut. I can't even get on the phone or get on the radio. So then I go to guns. I get up there to the front door. I'm waiting for Hanford PD because I could hear them coming. But I remember thinking, I have no way to talk to Hanford. I'm not going to pick out my phone and get into a shootout while I'm trying to talk on the phone.
Yeah, no claymores, no clats.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there just going, you know what? Do I want to die for Amtrak? And the answer was, no, I don't. And you know what? Other than the money, I don't miss it. There are some guys there. There's some great dudes there. I miss working with those dudes because they're doing the job because they want to. Shout out to, there's a guy there. His name's Madhu Karup. He's a great sergeant, and Benabu's a detective, and some other guys, man, they're great. And but the problem is, dude, the logistics of Amtrak, dude. And then we had to wear these yellow vests where we look like guard dog security.
The here I am, come shoot me vest.
Yeah. And people treated us horrible because we wore those vests. And I just remember going, you know what, money, I'm not enjoying this.
Right.
I'm going to end up getting killed because I don't have backup. And I just went, you know what? I don't have to do it. And so that's what made me leave.
Well, you and I had some good talks on those long trips you had to Merced. I mean, I'd call you up and you'd call me, you say, hey, Patrick, what's happening? What's going on? And before I knew it, you say, oh, okay, well, here's my stop. And I didn't know you were just using me to fill time there, brother.
Well, and you know what, man? It's sad. Because I mean, dude, the pay was phenomenal, man. But dude, again, money, man. And, but it pushed me where I needed to go because then I went right into the master's program.
Quality of life, brother.
Oh, 100%. What inspired you to start Echelon Security Group, and how did it grow into one of the Central Valley's largest firms? How did that happen?
I touched on it earlier when I said that I really was frustrated with security when I was in law enforcement, but then I became a business owner and I hired a company to do the patrols of my business. And I'd ask them for some sort of report so I knew when they came by or whatever. And they literally said, well, what's your fax number? And I said, I don't have a fax machine. Come on, let's get with the times. And they said, well, we can scan these into a computer and send them to you. We can email them to you. And they literally emailed me these handwritten DARs. And you remember the days of the DARs, man. But dude, we're talking the late 90s here. I'm sorry, we're in the 2000s. And the security company is sending me handwritten DARs to tell me when their officers came by my place. And they would black out all the spots that they hit other than my place. So I'm getting these reports that were absolutely worthless. And I thought,
there's got to be a better way
clients
to do
around
business.
here have this choice. It's like pulling your boots off, J Mac. When you pull your boots off, you can't sit there and wonder if your left foot stinks worse than your right foot, because the reality is they both stink.
Yeah.
Right. And I thought, businesses in this region of the state, they were trying to figure out if their left foot stunk worse than their right, because their options for security, in my humble opinion, were very poor. And, I remember telling Tiffany, we're going to go that next level. We're going to go that next level. And if we can't go the next level, or we end up sinking and being like everybody else, we'll pull the plug on this. That's my promise to you. And we're not going to spin our wheels to be low grade. We're not going to do it. And the word echelon, as you know,
top notch,
higher level. And that's why we named it echelon, even though it, in retrospect, as far as marketing goes, a lot of people don't even know how to say the word when they see it on our cars.
And I will tell you this, man. I mean, just to look at you guys, I mean, dude, for the folks at home, Pat had me come and help when you had Rob Schneider.
Oh yeah.
And I was there to help guard Rob Schneider. And dude, I'm looking at your people, bro. I mean, you're hiring top-notch people. They look sharp. They talk sharp. I mean, for security,
yeah.
I mean, dude, this is almost on par with law enforcement.
About 20% of our staff is former law enforcement, brother.
And
they come to us because the worst thing you can do in law enforcement is retire.
Yeah.
Because, those idle hands, I mean, friend, how many of our friends have retired and been dead within 4 years?
I would say that, the national average is 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years.
Horrible statistics.
So you have to be active. You have to remain active. You must. There's no excuse. You must.
But I'm going to tell you something, man. I'm thoroughly impressed with you guys. I mean, I see your vehicles out in town. One thing I noticed, they're always clean. I've never seen one of your cars covered in dust and they look new.
Well, an interesting thing happened and I wasn't trying to offend any of my brothers or sisters in law enforcement, but we advertise on the radio. We're on 3 different radio stations in our market area. And I record all my commercials. It's the old DJ in me. I want to
Well, hey, bro, I need you to do some episodes here, man, for me, man.
Well, there you go.
I mean, I need you to hawk this for me, man.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So, hey, there's the opportunity, right? But, the thing is, in one of our original commercials, I said that businesses that hire Echelon know that when we respond, we can handle 99.5% of their problems without ever having to activate law enforcement to assist. And J-Mac, I was using statistics. I wasn't trying to say there's no need for law enforcement. We're security officers. We can only do so much, but sometimes it takes very little to run someone off a property. We deter, we detect, we observe, we report, but nobody wants us there watching every move. So we roll up in our cars, like you said, they look good. They look like we're ready to roll. And most of the time people just move on. And the statistics were this. At the time, J-Mac, we were making between 95 and 100 contacts a day with the unhoused. All right, let's do the math here. So let's call it an even 100 to round the numbers.
And you're the only person I know that causes unhoused.
Unhoused. Well, they are unhoused. My
I mean,
friend.
man.
But, we want to call them transits. We want to call them homeless.
Yeah, but honestly, man, God bless you, dude. And you know what?
They're members of our community, whether we want them or Jay.
And I will tell you this. I know that I know you haven't been treated the best by VPD.
I don't want to put anybody on blast.
But I know that. And, you don't even have to tell me that. I hear it from some of my old partners. And I know this, and it's sad because the homeless situation in this town, I don't know if you think this, but I put this out in my last episode. I think there's 1,500 homeless people.
Oh, no, that's low.
Okay.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah. And because I always said gangs represent 1%.
Yeah.
So, maybe homeless, but
we're easily sitting well over 2,200.
Okay. And then, and think about that. 2,200 people And a lot of people suffering from alcoholism, drug addiction, mental health issues.
Self-medicating those mental health issues. A lot of them are releases because, our political leaders have closed down 3 prisons. 30% of the people out on the street are a result of prison releases.
Horrible.
That non-revocable parole was one of the worst things they've ever done in the state of California. 100% of the people living on the street have done jail time or prison time. 100% of the people on the street are carrying weapons. Why? Because they have to survive. They have to carry weapons to survive. But here we are making up to 100 contacts a day was our average when I recorded this commercial. So let's in a 30-day month, that's 3,000 contracts or 3,000 contacts, right? So let's do the math there. J-Mac, 3,000 contacts, and we were averaging less than 2 calls a month to the police.
That's pretty good, dude.
Okay, look, that statistic right there shows that we're handling well over 99.5% of our calls without engaging the police. It's not meant to down the police. Look, our police officers are overburdened. They get back in their patrol car and they've got calls stacked.
Oh, dude, I would clear a call and there's 10 waiting, bro.
10 waiting to go. They're stacked. When we call for assistance, we sometimes are told it's not going to come. It's just not going to happen. See what you guys can do. And you know what? I'm not bagging on the local law enforcement agencies, but that's reality. And it's every department. Look at the recruiting right now.
Oh,
right?
It's horrible, dude.
The police academy, 40 to 50% of normal number of recruits in the class. Who wants to get in law enforcement today, J-Mac? It's very difficult. You're living in an environment where public sentiment has turned against you.
I know, 100%, dude. And I will tell you something, man. I had something happen to me. I was over here at a gas station on Lovers Lane and I'm gassing up and, I see this guy walking around. He's, harassing people for money. And, he goes over to this elderly lady and he's like demanding money. And so I give him the look and I just go like this. Well, he walks up to me and he goes, "Hey buddy, you got any cash on you?" And I was like, "Hey bro, I pay for everything with a card. I never carry cash."
I don't either.
And he grabs me by the arm and he goes, "Oh, you're going to give me something." So I gave him a little love tap to the throat and dropped him. And, so VPD rolls up, and they don't know who. I mean, VPD has such a high turnover rate.
Yeah.
Nobody even know who these people are. And, so the cops are like, "Get your hands out of your pockets," to me. And, then we start talking and they're like, and I was like, "Did I commit a crime?" And I was like, "He's doing strong arm robbery to people." I go, "Is he going to press charges?" And they were like, "Oh, are you an attorney?" I was like, "No, I'm a retired police officer."
Right.
They go, "What agency?" I go, Visalia PD. They go, "How long did you work there?" I go, 24 years. And they were like, okay. And it's sad, bro, because what if that hadn't been there and that old lady, he probably would have taken her purse.
Well, you know that every encounter we have with the unhoused is a potential powder keg, because I've had situations where I probably know about 800 on a first name basis, and they know me definitely on a first name basis.
What? I mean, honestly, the mental health issues that these people are experiencing, and they don't take their psychotropic meds.
They're not.
Then they do. You're right. Then they self-medicate with illegal street drugs.
Right.
And
because we've cut mental health counseling back.
Yeah. And I would tell you this. These people are dangerous.
They are very dangerous.
And man. And
so I've got 100 contacts a day going. My officers are making 100 contacts a day with these folks. That's 100 potential bad outcomes per day. And so, in my commercial, maybe I'm a little proud with the statistic that we don't need to call law enforcement very often. Well, I then, a couple months later, I'm on a Zoom call with one of my largest clients, but a police department, which will remain unnamed, has an executive officer on the same Zoom call.
I know who you're talking about.
And this officer, we're talking about the increase in activity on this client site, which we are hired to protect. And this particular executive officer says, "Well, I don't understand your problem, because Patrick Lozano says that his company can handle 99.5% of their clients' issues without having to engage the police." And I said, "And we do." And then I broke down the statistic I just said to you about how many contacts we have. But Jay, I don't want my friends in law enforcement to think I'm bagging on them. I know you have friends that don't hold me in the highest regard, but J-Mac, they don't know my story. Well, they don't know me. I'm from a different era than them. One of them was smug enough to say, "Well, sir, in your day, maybe you did get to do police work in a different way." And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking,
and here's the problem.
J-Mac, I left 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you
this. It's not that long ago, bro.
Yeah, it's just turned into it's a sad thing.
But at the same time, we're not taking care of our police.
No, we're not.
We're not taking care of our police, and the environments aren't healthy enough, and they now don't have public support, and they don't have recruiting support. I always tell people, if you want to get into a job where everyone's going to be happy, sell ice cream.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a public servant where everyone's going to be happy to see you, then be a firefighter.
No, you're right. No,
the fire department shows up and everybody loves the firefighters, and I'm not capping on the firefighters.
No. They do. You're right.
They're paramedics and firefighters. God love them. Glad they were there. When I went down with my my heart attack on Thanksgiving Day in 2010, it was some firefighter paramedics that saved me. Right? God love them. Thank them for being there.
Well, listen to this. Echelon was the first security company to win the Triple B Award, an Ethics in Business Award. What does that recognition mean to you personally?
Well, the Better Business Bureau has always been kind of the gold standard for everybody will put it on their site if their business is accredited as an A+ rating, with an A+ rating of the Better Business Bureau. But we didn't know that we got nominated. The award comes from the Craig School of Business of Fresno State, as well as the Better Business Bureau. And the Better Business Bureau of Fresno this is the following counties it represents: Fresno County, Madera County, Tulare County, Kings County, Riverside County, and San Bernardino County.
So, dude,
as well as Inyo Kern.
I was going to say, you're talking massive.
Huge. It's a huge footprint. It's called the Better Business Bureau of Fresno. We've now changed the name of it. But that was the footprint. And our business got nominated by 6 of our clients.
Awesome.
Because of how they interpreted the ethical way that we ran our business. And I get a notification call from the Better Business Bureau informing me that we've been nominated by 6 different businesses because they believe that we have ethical leadership. And I'm like, wow, I'm touched. That's awesome. And I thought that's where the story ended. I mean, just to be nominated, right, but then when we won the award, and then when we learned that no security company ever in this huge footprint of businesses had ever even been nominated for it before, let alone we won the award for 2023 as the Ethics in Business
Well, I'm going to
Leadership.
tell you that, and it doesn't surprise me, bro. And I'm not saying this because we're friends, and I do respect you. But dude, I mean, you guys are just 1,000% above any security company I've ever seen.
Well,
I mean, I wouldn't, it's like, again, I mean, we all have these horror stories about, security, man, but dude, you guys are awesome.
Tiffany and Aiden and myself, we're family. And then my brother Sean and his wife Rochelle run the Bakersfield office for us, but our whole thing is we just want to be a better option for people. We know where we belong. We are not law enforcement officers, but we serve an important purpose to the clients that need us. And we do run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Do you know what the commitment money-wise is to have 3 people on patrol 24 hours a day? That's like running a small patrol agency. It's what we are doing, but we do it because we need to make our people available to go respond to client issues, because these issues aren't going to wait. And even though they may be small issues, someone's stealing catalytic converters in a parking lot, and we roll up and they take off. We don't go on foot pursuit. Well, we are just glad to run them off, right?
I would tell you this, you know what, man? I mean, just fuel, payroll, I'm sure you got to have a lot of insurance, and then also I know, you get a PPO and all that.
Right.
I mean, they don't make it easy.
No.
Security work can sometimes be viewed as policing light.
Right.
But your company has bodyguard, transport, patrol ops.
Yeah.
What do you see private security fitting in today's world?
So someone told me, and it was a police officer that works for Visalia PD. So I'm not putting him on blast. He made a comment to me and he said, seems like you got into security at the right time. And I gotta be honest with you, J Mac, it kind of offended the hell out of me because, we started our company the year before COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And we ran through all of COVID. And not only did we live through COVID, we actually grew.
I was going to say, man, because COVID, man, that was a rough time for businesses, brother.
Two local security companies shut down during COVID because they couldn't keep business. Why couldn't they keep business? If it was just the right time to come into security, then why are we losing security companies left and right? There are well over 100,000 security companies that are no longer in business in the state of California that were in business 10 years ago. 100,000 that couldn't make it. This is hard work. It's like running any business. There's no such thing as you opened your business at the right time. No, hard work and perseverance. I always say God blesses hard work. And my mother taught me, A, always give credit to God, and B, always work hard. And we've been blessed for that hard work. We're 6.5 years old. We just crossed over the 100-person employee area. It's been a huge blessing. We have a 100% retention level for our clients. We've never been fired by a client. You can't say that about every company out here. And I know you can't say it because every client that we have today was with somebody else before they came to us.
Yeah.
And we are very, very thankful and grateful to our clients.
And you know what, man? Again, dude, I mean, I wish I could show people what your vehicles look like, man, because they are awesome.
Well, I wish that your friends that don't really care for me because they don't really know me, they might think they know. Look, man,
I know this.
I'm a brother in blue, and I did my job, and I did the tough job. I've done the things, I've done the heinous things that were required of us. I've survived to tell the stories, but it's not just about the stories, brother. It's about the scars.
Well, and I would tell you,
we all have those scars, brother.
And you know what? I think for you, I think you've earned the right to say what you want. I think that your heart is in the right place. That's one thing about you. I've never questioned why you want to do things. I think when I talk to you, I think you're very professional. I think your heart, I mean, honestly, dude, I mean, you and your wife both, I think you guys are great. I think you guys are doing this because you guys really want to help people. And, God bless you, brother. And I hope it continues to grow.
I appreciate that.
What are the biggest challenges in your industry right now?
It's like anything post-COVID. Security is one of those businesses that's entry level. For a lot of people, we have a lot of former police officers on our staff and retired police officers on our staff because they don't want to go idle. But 80+% of our staff are going to be with us for 6 to 12 months because we're a stepping stone kind of industry. We've been blessed that in the last couple of years, we have over 6 of our officers have become police officers full time.
Awesome.
We have
any
2
VPD guys?
No, not one.
Okay.
Oh no, I take that back. 1 that's here, and then 3 with the sheriff's department, and then Fresno County with the rest of them, and 1 Fresno PD. But and then we have several that have gone on to be nurses. But here's the thing. We understand that we're here for a season in someone's life, but we want to enrich their season. We want to make their time with us be as good as it can be so they can build that resume so they can move on. And so our biggest challenge, J-Mac, is we are constantly recruiting employees. I mean, we have ads running on Indeed 12 months of the year, and we are constantly hiring. We just onboarded 4 people last week. And it's not because we're treating people badly. It's because this is what this industry is it should be a stepping stone, except for our top managers. Everyone else should be, cycling through and getting the experience that they can from us and growing that resume, but they should be cycling through. No one has ever interviewed with me and said when I say, what's your 10-year plan? They say, I want to be right here. Well, I wouldn't hire that person.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would tell you this, I don't know if you realize this or not, but, we've been talking for 1 hour and 45 minutes already, dude.
Well, that's Patrick and J-Mac.
Yeah. And so I have a million other questions, and I think I'm going to have you come back on. But I want to leave you with something. Anytime I have a guest, I just want to tell them what I really think. And I appreciate you, brother. And one thing about you, anytime I've ever called you, I know this about you. If I need something, the answer has always been yes. You are a good person. I think you are I think you're a patriot. I think you're righteous. And I think what you do is valued. And I just want to let you know, I want your business to get as big as what you want it to get because I think you deserve it. I love you. I love your wife. I want you guys to just get as big as possible. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode.
J-Mac, we love you, brother.
I know you do.
And we appreciate your support.
This is J-Mac. This is episode 3 with Patrick Lozano. I'll leave you with aim low. They might be riding Shetlands. All right. Thank you. Bye.